There are certain rules in biology we thought were absolute. Plants photosynthesize, animals don't. Predators produce their own venom. Prey don't steal it. And if you lose your head, you die. Period. But floating somewhere in the shallow waters off the eastern coast of North America is a creature that breaks every single one of these rules. A slug, no bigger than your thumb, bright green as a leaf, that shouldn't exist. It photosynthesizes like a plant. It survives for months without eating. And perhaps most impossibly, it steals the cellular machinery of algae and keeps it running inside its own body for nearly a year. This is Elysia chlorotica, the emerald green sea slug, and the more we study it, the less sense it makes. Let me start with what should be the simplest question. What is it? The answer gets complicated fast. Elysia chlorotica is a mollusk related to snails and clams. It belongs to a group called sacoglossans, the sap-sucking sea slugs. But calling it just a slug feels wrong, because for most of its adult life, this creature functions more like a plant than an animal. It basks in sunlight, it performs photosynthesis, it produces oxygen as a byproduct, and it does all of this using technology it stole, not inherited, stole. Here's how it works. When a young Elysia hatches from its egg, it's brown, unremarkable, and entirely animal. It feeds on a specific species of algae called Vaucaria literia, sucking out the cell contents like we'd drink from a straw. But instead of digesting everything, the slug does something extraordinary. It separates out the chloroplasts, the tiny green engines that power photosynthesis, and it moves them into the cells lining its gut. Not just a few, millions of them. And then, instead of destroying these foreign structures like any normal immune system would, the slug keeps them alive, functional, photosynthesizing. For months. In some cases, for over a year. This is called kleptoplasty, chloroplast theft. And while a handful of other sea slug species can do this for a few weeks, Elysia chlorotica takes it to an extreme no other animal approaches. It becomes green, spreading those stolen chloroplasts throughout its extensively branched digestive system until its entire body glows emerald in the light. And then, after just a few good meals early in life, it stops eating. Completely. Some individuals have survived for 9 months without a single bite of food, powered entirely by sunlight. At first, scientists thought this made perfect sense. The slug steals chloroplasts. The chloroplasts photosynthesize. The slug uses the sugars produced. Solar-powered animal, case closed. But then researchers started running experiments, and the results shattered that beautiful, simple explanation. They took Elysia slugs and divided them into groups. One group got light. One group sat in complete darkness. A third group got light, but was treated with chemicals that completely shut down photosynthesis. If the slugs were truly depending on photosynthesis to survive, the ones in darkness or with blocked photosynthesis should have starved quickly. But they didn't. All 3 groups survived for months. All 3 lost weight at roughly the same rate. The ones that couldn't photosynthesize did just as well as the ones that could. Other researchers tested different species. Elysia timida, kept in total darkness for 88 days. All survived. Placobranchus oculatus, 55 days without food, some in light, some in darkness, some with photosynthesis chemically blocked. All survived. Same weight loss, same time frame. This wasn't just surprising, it was impossible. If photosynthesis wasn't keeping them alive, what was? The current hypothesis is stranger than the original story. Scientists now think the chloroplasts aren't power plants. They're food storage. When the slug consumes algae, it's not just stealing chloroplasts. It's accumulating lipids, fats, energy reserves packed into those green structures. The chloroplasts might photosynthesize. Sure, they definitely produce oxygen and sugars in the light, but that's not what's keeping the slug alive during starvation. The slug is slowly digesting the chloroplasts themselves, breaking them down for nutrients over the course of months. It's eating its batteries. But this raises an even deeper mystery. Chloroplasts are delicate. In their natural home inside algal cells, they require constant maintenance. They need proteins, hundreds of different proteins, most of which are coded by genes in the algae's nucleus, not in the chloroplast itself. Rip a chloroplast out of an algal cell, and it should die within hours, maybe days. Its photosynthetic machinery should break down. Its membranes should rupture. It should become useless. And yet, inside a sea slug's gut, with no access to the algal nucleus, no source of replacement proteins, these chloroplasts keep working for up to 10 months. How? For years, scientists searched for the answer in the slug's genome. They found something astonishing, a gene called PSBO copied directly from the algae. This gene codes for a protein essential to photosynthesis, part of the molecular machinery that splits water molecules to produce oxygen. It's a plant gene, an algal gene, and it's sitting inside the slug's DNA, identical to the version found in Vaucaria. Not similar, identical. The slug didn't evolve this gene. It didn't inherit it from an ancestor. It stole it. At some point in evolutionary history, DNA from digested algae made it into a slug's cells, maybe through a ruptured algal cell spilling its contents, maybe carried by a virus. However it happened, that foreign DNA got incorporated into the slug's genome, and not just into random cells, into the germline, into the eggs, passed down generation after generation, so that today, every Elysia chlorotica is born with algal genes woven into its own genetic code. This is called horizontal gene transfer, and outside the bacterial world, it's vanishingly rare. Bacteria swap genes constantly, trading resistance to antibiotics or new metabolic tricks like humans trade recipes. But complex organisms like animals almost never acquire genes this way. The barriers are too high. The DNA has to get past cell membranes, avoid being destroyed, integrate into chromosomes, and somehow end up in reproductive cells. The odds are astronomical, and yet this slug pulled it off. It didn't just steal chloroplasts, it stole the genetic instructions to maintain them. It hacked photosynthesis at the molecular level and made it work inside an animal body. But even with that stolen gene, we still don't fully understand how this works. The PSBO gene is just one piece of the puzzle. Photosynthesis requires thousands of proteins. The slug has acquired maybe a handful of algal genes at most. Where are the rest of the proteins coming from? How is the chloroplast surviving without them? Some researchers think the slug might have other undiscovered algal genes. Others suspect the chloroplasts are more self-sufficient than we realized, able to function with less support than we thought possible. And some believe the slug's cells might be modifying the chloroplasts, changing their internal chemistry to make them more stable, more resistant to damage. Recent studies found that slugs do alter the chloroplasts after stealing them, activating protective mechanisms that dissipate excess light energy as heat, preventing the kind of oxidative damage that normally destroys these structures. The truth is, we still don't know. And the slug isn't the only impossible thing in this story. Floating upside down in the open ocean, there's another slug that rewrites the rules. Glaucus atlanticus, the blue dragon. And where Elysia steals photosynthesis, this creature steals death itself. The blue dragon is small, barely 3 centimeters long, but it's one of the most visually striking animals in the ocean. Its body is electric blue on the underside, silver gray on top, with 6 feathery appendages spreading like wings. It drifts at the surface, belly up, using an air bubble trapped in its stomach to stay afloat. From above, its blue blends with the water. From below, its silver matches the bright surface. Perfect camouflage, perfect and deadly. Because the blue dragon hunts Portuguese man-o'-war, jellyfish-like creatures whose tentacles can stretch 60 feet and deliver stings powerful enough to kill a human. The man-o'-war is one of the ocean's most dangerous predators, and the blue dragon, a slug the length of your thumb, eats them. Here's where it gets extraordinary. The man-o'-war's tentacles are covered in nematocysts, specialized stinging cells that fire microscopic harpoons loaded with venom. When those harpoons hit flesh, they inject neurotoxins that cause excruciating pain, paralysis, sometimes death. Most animals that encounter a man-o'-war either die or flee. The blue dragon swims directly toward it, immune. Using its serrated radula, a ribbon of teeth, it tears off chunks of the tentacles and swallows them. But instead of digesting the nematocysts, instead of neutralizing the venom, the slug does something that seems impossible. It selects the most venomous cells, roots them through its digestive tract without triggering them, and stores them in the tips of its feathery appendages. Alive, functional, concentrated. A Portuguese man-o'-war has thousands of nematocysts spread across meters of tentacles. The blue dragon packs those same stinging cells into a body 3 centimeters long. The concentration is higher, the dose more potent. A slug that weighs less than a paperclip can deliver a sting more painful, more dangerous than the creature it ate. It doesn't produce venom, it weaponizes what it steals. And it doesn't stop at man-o'-war. Blue dragons also consume other venomous siphonophores, by-the-wind sailors, blue buttons, each contributing their own toxins to the slug's arsenal. The slug becomes a cocktail of concentrated venoms, multiple species worth of chemical weapons stored in specialized sacs called sacs at the tip of each appendage. Touch a blue dragon, and you're not getting stung by a slug. You're getting stung by everything it's eaten, all at once. Humans who've been stung describe the pain as worse than any jellyfish. Burning that lasts for hours, welts that persist for days, and the slugs remain dangerous even after death. A dead blue dragon washed up on a beach still has functional nematocysts, still stings. Beachcombers picking up what looks like a beautiful piece of ocean art have ended up in hospitals. But here's the question no one has fully answered. How does the slug survive? When you eat a man-o'-war, the nematocysts should fire in your mouth, your throat, your stomach. The venom should kill you instantly. Blue dragons somehow prevent this. They have specialized cells in their gut lining, possibly hardened with mucus, possibly chemically modified, that allow the nematocysts to pass through without triggering. And then, once the stinging cells reach the sacs, the slug keeps them alive, keeps them pressurized, keeps them ready to fire, but only when the slug wants them to. It's controlling weapons it didn't build, managing a chemical arsenal that should be destroying it from the inside. We don't understand the mechanism. We don't know how the slug's immune system tolerates these foreign cells. We don't know how it prevents accidental discharge. The blue dragon shouldn't work, but it does. And then there's the third impossibility, the slug that can lose its head and survive. Elysia marginata and Elysia atraviridis, 2 species of sacoglossan sea slug found off the coast of Japan. They look unremarkable, small, green, leaf-shaped. And then, one day in a laboratory in 2018, a researcher named Sayaka Mito noticed something that shouldn't be possible. One of her slugs had separated its head from its body, cleanly, deliberately. The head sat next to the body in the tank, and both were still moving. She assumed the slug would die. Any animal that loses its head dies. That's biology. That's basic. But the head didn't die. The wound at the separation point healed within a day, and then, slowly, impossibly, the head started to rebuild. Within a week, she could see a heart forming, beating, pumping blood through tissue that hadn't existed days before. Within 3 weeks, the slug had a complete body: stomach, intestines, reproductive organs, everything, grown from nothing but a severed head. Mito and her colleague Yoichi Yusa started experimenting. They cut the heads off 16 slugs to see if they could replicate what they'd observed. 6 started regenerating, 3 succeeded completely, and 1 individual did it twice. Cut off its head, regrew its body, then, months later, cut off its head again and regrew a second new body, the ultimate regeneration. Other animals can regenerate. Starfish regrow arms. Salamanders regrow tails. Flatworms can regrow entire bodies from tiny fragments. But those are simple animals with simple body plans. Elysia marginata is complex. It has a brain, a heart, a complete digestive system, a nervous system, and it can rebuild all of that from just the head. No other animal with this level of complexity can do anything close, and it gets stranger. The discarded bodies don't die either, not immediately. Headless, heartless in the head's case, but the body keeps reacting. When researchers touched the bodies, they moved. The hearts, left behind in the bodies, continued beating. For days, for weeks, in some cases, for months. Slowly decomposing, yes, but still responsive, still showing signs of neural activity, still technically alive in some minimal way. The bodies never regrew heads. The heads always won. But the fact that a body without a brain can persist, can react to stimuli for months, challenges everything we thought we knew about how nervous systems work. So how does the head survive? No heart means no circulation. No stomach means no digestion. No liver means no detoxification. A severed head should run out of oxygen within minutes, should starve within hours, should die. But these slugs survive for weeks before regeneration even begins. The answer, again, comes back to stolen photosynthesis. Both Elysia marginata and Atroviridis are kleptoplastic. They steal chloroplasts from algae, and those chloroplasts, distributed throughout the slug's body, including the head, keep producing oxygen and sugars in the light. The severed head turns green, acts like a plant, sustains itself on sunlight while it slowly rebuilds a body. Without that ability, this regeneration would be impossible. But photosynthesis alone doesn't explain it. Regeneration, on this scale, requires stem cells, undifferentiated cells that can become any tissue type. The slug's head must contain a population of these cells, ready to activate, ready to build organs from scratch. And it must have the genetic instructions to coordinate that construction, to know where the heart goes, where the gut forms, how to connect nerves and blood vessels and muscles into a functional whole. Scientists are only beginning to map those mechanisms. They suspect specific signaling molecules, chemical gradients that tell cells what to become and where. But the details remain mysterious. And then there's the question of why. Why would a slug evolve this ability? Regeneration is expensive. It takes energy. It takes time. 3 weeks is an eternity in the ocean. 3 weeks of vulnerability, unable to flee, unable to hunt effectively. There must be a reason. The researchers think it's parasites. Many of the slugs that self-decapitated were infected with parasitic copepods, tiny crustaceans that burrow into tissue. By discarding the body, the slug discards the parasites. It trades 85% of its body weight for a fresh start. A drastic solution, but apparently worth it. When researchers examined healthy, uninfected slugs, none of them self-decapitated, only the parasitized ones. It's not a defense against predators. The process takes hours, far too slow for escape. It's a way to survive infection, a last resort. Cut off your body or die. What unites all these slugs, the emerald leaf, the blue dragon, the regenerating head, is that they all break rules we thought were fundamental. They blur boundaries, animal and plant, predator and weapon, life and death. They steal what they need, photosynthesis, venom, time itself, and they make it work in ways that seem impossible. And we're only scratching the surface. Elysia chlorotica is becoming rare, harder to find, harder to study. Climate change is altering the salt marshes where it lives. The specific algae it needs to eat, Vaucaria littorea, is difficult to culture in labs. The few researchers who dedicated their careers to studying this slug have mostly retired. We might lose the opportunity to understand it before we've even figured out how it works. The blue dragon, too, is poorly studied. It lives in open ocean, drifting wherever currents take it. We encounter it mostly by accident, when individuals wash up on beaches. We don't know its population size. We don't know its life cycle in detail. We don't know how climate change or ocean acidification might be affecting it. We're watching these creatures from the outside, catching glimpses, filling in gaps with guesses. The regenerating slugs are slightly better understood, but only because of one researcher's accident, one moment of observation that revealed something no one was looking for. How many other animals have abilities we haven't discovered yet? Because we weren't watching at the right moment. Here's what keeps me awake at night. These slugs exist in shallow water, coastal zones, places humans can access relatively easily. And they're this strange. They photosynthesize, they concentrate venom, they regrow hearts from severed heads. Now imagine what's in the deep ocean. Imagine what's in environments we can't reach, can't study, can barely survive in with our best technology. If a slug in a salt marsh can steal genes from algae and make photosynthesis work inside an animal body, what else is possible? What other rules are being broken in places we've never looked? The deep sea covers more than half the planet. We've explored less than 5% of it. Every expedition brings back creatures that don't make sense. Every dive reveals biology that shouldn't work. The sea slugs we know are impossible. The ones we don't know might rewrite biology entirely. And there's a deeper question here. These slugs didn't set out to break rules. They didn't decide to be impossible. Evolution doesn't care about our categories, our definitions of what animals can and can't do. It cares about survival. And if survival means stealing chloroplasts, if it means weaponizing venom you didn't produce, if it means discarding your entire body and building a new one, then that's what evolves. The rules we think are absolute: animal versus plant, predator versus weapon, life versus death. Those are human constructs. Nature doesn't follow them. Nature finds solutions, and sometimes those solutions look like magic. Scientists studying Elysia chlorotica hope that understanding how it maintains stolen chloroplasts might teach us something about cellular biology, about how cells recognize self versus foreign, about how we might one day engineer cells to do things they weren't designed for. The blue dragon might hold insights into immunology, into how bodies can tolerate foreign proteins, foreign cells, without triggering rejection. And the regenerating slugs might, just might, point toward mechanisms we could use to repair human tissue, to regrow damaged organs, to understand how complex bodies are built from scratch. But even if none of that happens, even if these slugs never teach us anything practical, they're worth studying for a simpler reason. They remind us how little we actually know, how much strangeness is still out there, waiting. How many impossible things are floating in the ocean, glowing green in the sunlight, stealing venom, discarding their bodies, surviving. These slugs shouldn't exist, but they do. And every time we look closer, they get stranger. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and comment down below, as it helps let others know they should watch this video. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the bell to get notified of our newest videos. See you next time.